Hey guys, how you all doing? What an absolute pleasure being here once again. It's Dr. Steve, and I'm here home with my buddy Woody. And I've got an awesome guest for you here today. I've got my friend Tony Rodrigues, who I've had the good fortune to meet through our mutual friend Eric Swanson at the Habitude Warrior Conference, and got to know a lot about Tony and about his remarkable work. This guy's worked with Tony Robbins. He's got a great program himself that I've been a guest on called Get Up and Grow, and I'm going to encourage you guys to go over and check that out too. But I'm going to get a chance to talk to Tony today a little bit about what we've been talking a lot about, which is resilience, how to be resilient through the times that we're going through right now. So let me introduce Tony to you real quick. Tony, how's it going, my friend?
Hey guys, what's up? So glad to be here, Steve. I appreciate the opportunity to have a dialogue with you always. Right, it's always great to talk to you, and to be interviewed by you on your show is fantastic.
Absolutely,
so thank you.
I'm really glad you're here. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and we'll start with there, and then we'll start talking a little bit about the current circumstances.
Sure. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody's doing well and is happy and healthy. So my name is Tony Rodrigues. I live in New Jersey, and I, like everyone else, am staying safe at home. Hopefully not for too much longer, and growing through what we're going through. Right. Name of my program is called Get Up and Grow. So I do have a daily show called Tony Talks Get Up and Grow. And that's every day at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. As a matter of fact, I have another one today with a fantastic guest. And I don't know, Steve, if you got to see her the other day, Jan Hargrave, the body language expert. She's coming on today. And it's basically, it's a conversation with inspirational leaders, influencers, and change makers, people that aren't just doing well in life, that are doing good in the world. And that's why I already had you on the show as well. So it's always good to talk to great people. And it's really about bringing people into or bringing people, interesting people to my audience, and just the same way you're doing it, to bring different perspectives on life, and to really talk about resilience, and talk about courage, and talk about the power of perseverance and discipline and determination and strength and faith and hope and integrity and all of those things, right? And again, give people a little bit of hope and shed a little bit of light in some of the dark times that are going on right now.
What I love about this is that you and I both have had the good fortune to align ourselves with other like-minded people who are no less affected than anybody else by what's going on, but have bring to the table certain attributes, certain ways of being that have really allowed them to deal with this situation much better. And I think if we get to talk about it more, we're going to have more of an impact on everybody that we reach. And I can see we've got some good friends joining us already. So Dana is here with us. Dana, what an absolute pleasure. Love you, babe. And Prudy is here, and Sonia is here. So hi, everybody.
Yeah, good to see everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're doing this show on both of our pages, right? Because there was always some technical issues to go on, but the show must go on, right?
What's funny is there's a momentary identity crisis, because the last time we had a show together, you were interviewing me. It's never really a one-way street, no matter what. But in this show, officially, I am the host of this show, but we're hosting it on your platform, which means that it's like I've come to your studio to be the show. So it's like David Letterman going to Johnny Carson's studio and hosting the show with Johnny Carson as a guest.
Hey, mi studio es su studio. Okay.
Muchas gracias. Of course, in this analogy, you are Johnny Carson, and that's one of the greats. So anyway, we do these what I call the smartest people I know. These shows, these very short snippets, 20-minute snippets, in order to inspire and motivate people through difficult times. And that's what you and I are both up to these days. And I'd love for you to say a few words about your what you've been discovering about mental resilience in this last couple of months.
Yeah, well, I think mental resilience, and just resilience in general, is such an important way to look at life, right? One of the things that I like to talk about and I like to post is, and I posted this just a couple of weeks ago, is everything that tried to drown me has taught me how to swim.
Oh, that's a great metaphor. I love it. Yeah.
Right. And it really is. All the things that are hurting you, that have hurt you in the past, have taught you what you need to know. So when you're dealing with the same circumstance, with the same person, with the same situation, it's not new to you. It's like, they say, oh, when you're starting over, you're not starting new, you're starting from experience.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and I think that that's an important part of resilience. When you go through something, you learn, and right, you hopefully you learn, right? Because if you don't learn, then, as they say, life is the cruelest teacher of all, because it gives you the test first and the lesson afterwards. Hopefully you've learned the lesson so that you can pass the test a lot easier next time, right? It's like being in school, and you go and you take a test and it's difficult, and then you get graded and you see which one you did wrong, and
Right.
what answers were wrong, and then they give you the test again that afternoon. What should happen?
Hopefully you do better, especially if you've been given the answers and you could kind of ruminate on it and figure out why you were wrong the first time.
Right. And hopefully that's what life is teaching us, right? So just remember that when you're going through struggle, when you're going through a hard time, that life is simply trying to teach you something, or there's something, when you fall, there's something down there that you're meant to find, that'll help you grow. And that's how you grow your resilience. That's how you become resistant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And resilient, because resistance and resiliency kind of go hand in hand. Not resisting like where you're resisting change, because what you resist persists. So not in that way, but resisting is probably more. It's not the right word. Let me try to use it in the right context. Where you can, when you become resilient, you're stronger, so you can resist or deflect the bad things that are coming at you. Probably is a better word.
I like this word. I mean, I think a lot about about Aikido. I used to study Aikido, the martial art.
Me too.
And Rick is here with us as well. Hey, Rick, buddy. We just had a great interview the other day. Rick was awesome.
Yeah, he was on too. He was on mine too.
There you go. Good to have the family back together.
Yeah,
we got the band back together. We're going to play some music too.
There you go.
But that, Aikido, the idea that when force is coming at you, you're not just trying to meet force with force, but you're deflecting or redirecting or just somehow using that force in a way that can increase the value of the situation and help you through it. I was thinking about, you were talking about the swimming analogy, which I love. I saw a movie one time, it was a comedy, and somebody said, the way my parents taught me to swim is they threw me off the boat into the water. And the other guy said, they weren't teaching you how to swim.
That's how I learned how to swim.
Which I think the metaphor or the lesson there is, it doesn't matter if you're being thrown off the boat because somebody's trying to drown you, or they're throwing you off the boat to teach you how to swim. Either way, you better learn how to swim.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, it's sink or swim, right? They say there's only one reason why people drown.
And?
Because they can't drink all the water. Sorry, bad joke.
Yeah, so that's what you got to learn. Forget about swimming. Just learn to drink.
Yeah. One of the analogies that I use in terms of resilience, and again, I'm it's all about analogies and quotes for me, right? And one that I've kind of come up with is, what the good thing about having to learn to swim across an ocean of crap. When we're going through things, it seems like we're swimming through this ocean of crap that you just can't seem to get to the other side. But you know what the great thing of having to swim across an ocean of crap is?
What's that?
When you come across a pond or a lake or a river, it's no big deal.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Because you already figured out and you already know how it is you already know how to get through it, right? So that's what resiliency gives you. You get through it and for next time. So when you come across that same problem, it's no big deal. Been here before. I know the road. I know the way.
Do you have any examples of that in your own life where at one time you met a certain challenge that really crushed you, and the next time you met the same challenge, you had a different way of dealing with it? Do you recall anything like that in your life?
Now, Steve, you said this is a 20-minute show. Do you understand the book that you're opening? I mean, that's not even fair. Yeah, I mean, so many places. I don't even know where to start, where to pick one from. But everything from being there's betrayal, there's business dealings that have gone wrong. There's mistakes that I've made where, I didn't see what I should have seen because I was choosing not to see it. Right. Man, I don't know. That's a really kind of
It's a good question for a
Yeah,
short.
it's a very big question for,
but it did spark a really interesting point, because, like, as you just said, the betrayal, those kinds of things, which can leave kind of a patina, kind of like a layer around us of distrust, and being able to like shed the layer of distrust, but still learn from the betrayal, that maybe you keep a closer eye on situations.
Oh, without a doubt. Dana's saying, pick a story and tell it. But I will say you're absolutely right. It leaves this patina. But here's the thing that I encourage people to do is, don't let something that happened turn you into something that you don't want to be. Right? When we're talking about betrayal, and that's been something that was really a big impactor in my life, and a big shift in my life. And just to remember that betrayal never comes from your enemies, right? Otherwise, it's not really betrayal. Then it's just business, or it's just, life.
Yeah.
But it's important not to let what happens in life make you bitter, right? Because if it needs to make you better. You need to learn. You need to go deeper into what it is that you need to learn the lesson, but don't let it make you bitter, because if it makes you bitter, it just makes you angry, and you stay in that bitterness, you stay in that anger, then that other person wins, that situation wins. It got the best of you. And then if that got the best of you, then all that's left is the rest of you, right? And then where do you go from there? You're not going to be able to get into relationships, into business partnerships, into whatever it is. So
I want to put
let it make you better.
Meredith's quote here. Meredith pointed out something that you said that I thought was great. She said, don't let something that moved, don't let something that happened to you turn you into something you don't want to be.
Yeah.
And that's awesome caveat. And so Dana is, she's hungry for the stories. I got a story. I'm going to tell you my story. I used to have a chiropractic practice years ago. And in my practice, I had somebody working for me toward the very end of the practice who was kind of a nightmare. She was, just somebody who, it turned out she was stealing behind my back. She was giving things away to her friends from my office, doing a lot of really bad stuff. And when I sold my practice, she then sued me for wrongful termination, even though I didn't wrongfully terminate her. I literally left the practice, but she sued me. And ultimately it was thrown out of court. But until it was thrown out of court, I didn't know how the law was going to view this whole thing. And so I had this person who had, nothing but ill will toward me. And she was kind of a lunatic, trying to, make my life a living hell. And it really did. I mean, I lost sleep night after night after night, wondering where it was going to go and what was going to fit, what was going to happen, and how was I going to be destroyed by this, this person. And ultimately it all worked out. So about a year later, I'm a private pilot, and I used to have this little airplane, and I was selling it. And the circumstances under which I ended up selling it were such that I couldn't get the check from the guy that I was selling it to. I couldn't get it into the bank because it was a Sunday. So I had to wait to get, for the check to clear in order to give him the title to the plane. And the check cleared, and I gave him the title, and then he reversed the funds on the check. So he ended up getting the entire cost of the plane. He got the plane for free. He basically stole my plane.
Wow.
And I was beginning to fall into that same emotional place that I'd been, because I didn't know if I was going to be able to recover that money and what it would take, and would I be lost? And I caught myself in the act of going into that desperate place that I'd been before. So, we were talking about how if you've been there before, let the lesson be learned. And so the lesson for me wasn't, just the circumstance, but it was, what am I letting it do to me? I said, I refuse to let it do that to me. I refuse to lose sleep night after night after night the way I did before, until I finally had, a resolution. I needed to feel okay before it resolved. So I sat there and I thought about it, and I did a reframe on it. And I said, if I never get that money back, will I still be okay? Will I still have friends? Yes. Will I still have a home? Yes. Will I still be able to eat? Yes. So what does that say about me? It says I'm a guy who can afford to lose $60,000. And it was this recognition that I'm okay. I mean, it wasn't comfortable, but the reframe was, it was just proof that I'm prosperous
Yeah. I
instead
love
of
that.
I'm going to lose everything. And making that kind of, leap, that kind of reframe based on having had a bad experience before, was the learning for me.
Yeah. Listen, this morning, you just saw the
Oh,
post, you just saw this post that I made this morning where, by, you know what, I don't want to screw it up. So I'm going to look at it, by Khalil Gibran. I always say Gilbran, so I just want to make sure it was right. And the quote was, "And God said, love your enemy. So I obeyed and loved myself." Right. And I think that's a really deep quote. What I thought about as I was walking after I made that post is, the name of my movement is Get Up and Grow. And where that sparked from was a conversation that I had with a friend of mine, an intentional conversation. We'll call it a coaching conversation. And I won't go into the whole story because it's a little drawn out, but I will just say this, that I told him, I said, when we're suffering, when we're in pain, right? And this goes to the story of resilience. When we're suffering and we're in pain, we sometimes don't think right. Sometimes we don't see what's right in front of us. Sometimes we're choosing not to see what we want. And basically, where that came from was, I was telling him he was going through some challenges, and I started telling him about my story. And I said, so here's what happened. God said grow, and I said no. Right? God said grow, and I said no, and there was more pain. But the reality is this, and I'm going to wind up making that quote. The reality is this: if you're suffering, if you're in pain and you're suffering, or rather, when you're in pain and you're suffering, and God says grow, you're gonna be in pain and you're gonna suffer. But if God says grow, you've got to grow. And when you grow, when you do, the pain and suffering ends. Right? You were suffering about having lost that money, but the minute you reframed that and you saw things as they were, right, then you stopped suffering. That was your moment of growth.
There's a great line that says, whenever you and reality come into conflict with one another, reality always wins.
Right? But sometimes it takes years. Sometimes it takes years to grow through that. So I'll share a little of my story, because Dana is saying, "What is your story, Tony Rodrigues?" So I'll say this, one of the most challenging things that has happened in my life, and I've unfortunately, and I guess fortunately, right, because our lives, what happens in our lives changes us and makes us who we are, right? Life is happening for us, and we're a compilation of our life's experiences, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I'll go ahead and share a piece of this story because Dana is pushing me here. So I'll say this: almost 6 years ago, I was in a business relationship with a childhood friend for many years, for about 25 years. And things just went sour, and he just decided, he was getting divorced, and he decided he was going to try to do some bad things, not only to his wife, but then to me, for whatever reason. There was no cause for that, by the way, before anybody starts thinking different things. There's no cause to that. And it was just a big betrayal. And then he was coming after me and my family. And it literally, at the end of it, it did cost me millions. And I was in pain for a long time because I was suffering for a long time. And the reason I was suffering is because I got the message. God was giving me a message: grow. And I was refusing to grow because I was refusing to see what was being done. Because I'm the fix-it guy, right? I help people with their business. I help people with their life. I help people with their relationships, right? I'm the guy that helps people. So I said, I can fix this. So I was refusing to see what was in front of me. I was refusing to see what was happening. And because I was refusing to see, I wasn't growing, and there was pain and there was suffering, and I suffered. And day after day and week after week, I was suffering. So, and I'll go back to the story I was telling my friend, because he called me and says, Tony, so now I got to tell the story. He calls me and says, Tony, and he calls me at 10:30 at night, never calls me at 10:30 at night. And And he calls me and he starts going into a story. I said, listen, stop. Are you telling me your story or are you repeating mine back to me? He's like, that's why I'm calling you. How the hell do you stay so positive? This and that. How, I said, so this is what happened. And I'm positive now. I was positive now, but for about 8 or 9 months, I was miserable. Mm-hmm. I was suffering in just tragic ways. I wasn't sleeping. It was terrible. But again, it really shifted me and made me who I am. So I had a conversation with him and I said, here's what happened. And at the time it was probably 2.5 years ago. 2.5 years ago, I was comfortable. I was making enough money. I wasn't making a ton of money, but I was doing all right. I was doing better than average, right? And I was comfortable, but comfort means that you're not growing. I was in my comfort zone. And then this thing happened and boom, it's like I got hit by a train. And I was like, what the hell just happened? And I couldn't believe it. And I was bewildered like a deer in headlights. I'm like, I can't believe this just happened. This isn't happening. This isn't happening. So I was refusing to see what was in front of me, and there was pain. And that's when God said, grow, and gave me pain. And I said, no. And then the next day, and this is me telling him the story. And said, the next day there was more pain and more suffering. God said, grow, and I said, no. And God said, grow, and I said, no. And this happened for weeks and months. And God said, grow, and I said, no. So the suffering continued. And as I was going, I was refusing to see what was in front of me. I was refusing to accept reality. I was refusing to accept reality, so I wasn't growing. And as I was doing that, he was putting more and more pieces, stacking more things against me without my even realizing, because I was blind to it. Right? Sometimes when you're in such a good, close relationship with someone, you've known them for so long, sometimes love will keep you from seeing what's in front of you, right? Or loyalty, right? I'm loyal to a fault, as I like to say. Sometimes that loyalty keeps you from seeing what's in front of you, creates eschatoma. So this kept happening until one day I realized, I said, what am I doing? This is actually really happening. And the minute I accepted it, the minute that I was unblinded to it, the minute that I saw what was really happening, and God said, grow, and I grew, the suffering went away. And the problem was still there. I still had to deal with the problem, but the suffering went away. It was like 1,000 pounds was lifted off of each shoulder, not just my shoulders, of each shoulder. Of course, a month later, there was more pain, and God said, grow, and I said, no. And I refused again for a while until I finally said, okay, this is happening. How are we going to handle it? Now, I say that why? Because, so the moral and the quickness of the quick part of that story is that I was giving this friend of mine coaching. And it wasn't until 2-3 months later, when I was retelling the story, that I realized that story was for me more than it was even for him. Because until then, I didn't even realize I had said it. The words came out of my mouth, but I didn't own them. I literally pulled them out of the ether, because at one point my son came into the garage, because I was pacing in my garage as I was having this conversation at 10:30 at night. He said, good night. And then I said, good night, go brush your teeth. When I came back to the call, I'm like, dude, I don't know what I was, keep going. I'm like, what was I saying? I completely lost the thread of what I was saying, which was kind of interesting. Then I picked it up again. But when I was sharing that story, did I realize that until you grow, pain is there to cause you to move, to shift, to go in one direction or another. And so many times we think that it's taking us off our path, when the reality of it is it's putting us on our path, or it's protecting us from something worse down the road. So if you're suffering right now, there's growth there. If you're suffering right now, that just means that you need to grow through whatever you're going through. So that's why the name of my program is Get Up and Grow. Actually spawned from that conversation that I had 3.5 years ago, or whatever it was.
So
Dan is saying it was a download. It was absolutely a download. I don't, when I'm coaching someone, I don't usually talk about God. I don't bring God into it unless, I know that the person is, wherever they are. So I don't do that. So the fact that came on was something. I can't even explain it.
Well, she's also bringing up the question of forgiveness. And for me, a lot of it's about acceptance. It's like, here's this circumstance. I've been refusing to accept it. I'm refusing to look at it. And now I'm looking at it as it is. This is reality. This person behaved in this certain way. Forgiveness is one piece of that. Perhaps I forgive them for who they are. But even just saying accepting it, I accept that this is the reality of this experience. This is who this person's being. And I'm not going to keep on sitting here saying, I can't believe this is true, and I want this to not be true, and if only this weren't true. And like, well, that's mental resistance versus, I guess this is true. This is the reality of it. And now, so what? Now what? That's one of my favorite quotes. So what now?
Yeah. Well, I got to introduce you to my friend Michelle, because she's got a show called So What Now What. Did I introduce you to her already? Anyway, we'll talk offline about that.
We'll have to get that taken
care of. But the reality of it is, she asked if there was forgiveness. First, there has to be acceptance, right? You've got to accept the situation that you're in and own it, right? Because by recognizing, awareness is power, right? Awareness is so important.
Absolutely.
Because until you're aware of what's happening, then you don't really know. You can't really see things for what they are, right? You can't see the forest for the trees, right? So awareness is number one, and acceptance of what is. I tried I did try to forgive while I was going through, but I couldn't, because I kept getting re-injured. I kept getting re-attacked. More bad things started happening. And it took a while. Only after it was over, or close to being over, did I really do that exercise of forgiveness, the Ho'oponopono. And one of the things that I had to work on really was forgiving myself for not seeing what I should have seen, for having my eyes closed when they should have been open, for not growing before I did.
Yeah, some of it ultimately comes down to self-love, because being able to accept it, being able to be aware of it is really requires a tenderness towards yourself, and not being frustrated or irritated with yourself for not seeing it, right? Because then there's more lack of acceptance for even yourself.
Absolutely.
Right? So being suffering over your suffering, we call that. So unfortunately, we've essentially used up all of our time here. Hard to believe. I mean, whenever we get into these kind of conversations, we could go on for hours. But out of respect for the folks who tune in on these things, expecting these shows to be a certain length, I want to be appropriate about that. So we're going to get ready to wrap things up. But I want to give everyone an opportunity to know a little bit more about how they could kind of enter your world. What is there some place you would direct people to?
Sure. Actually, unfortunately, the website is down currently, and it's going to be back up again on Monday. But it is. If you just go to GetUpNGrow, and I'll type it in the comments here. If you just go to GetUpNGrow next week, it'll be back up and running. I'll just I'll type it in real quick.
While you're busy typing, and I'm going to give you my link that I'd like you to put in there as well. This is so funny. Let's invite everybody to go ahead and grab a little excerpt from my newest book. So the newest book is this. It's Bulletproof, which is all about mental resilience. What if everything that bugged you, blocked you, or brought you down didn't? And you can make that available just by putting in bestofsteve.com. So you go to bestofsteve.com, and you'll have an opportunity to get a free digital download of the first chapter of the book.
Excellent. So I just put that in the chat as well. So the other way to get me is if you go on Instagram, you can just my name, Tony Rodrigues 2.0. I'll put that in as well. Tony Rodrigues 2.0. And what I'd really love, and also on Get Up and Grow, if people are watching this video, they can certainly get to Get Up and Grow. But I'd love everyone to go to my new YouTube channel where I'm streaming. As a matter of fact, this is streaming there as well, where you can continue to share. Where you can continue to share the video, not just on Facebook, but also on YouTube. And I just, as I was talking, I put the wrong address in for Instagram because we were talking about it. So, but yes, if you could go there, if you just look up my name and Get Up and Grow on Instagram, you should be able to find me. And again, I'd appreciate your subscribing and sharing with your friends. And again, I am a certified high performance life and business strategist. So I do some work one-on-one with clients. I also host masterminds with YBL. If you can go to yblsnow.com for that. And that's it. That's what I do. And I obviously speak. That's how we met, speaking on Eric Swanson's Habitude Warrior stage, which was absolutely phenomenal. So, I look forward to getting back on stage and doing that. So masterminds, coaching, and just helping people all around, spreading a little love. And certainly my show at 6:00 every afternoon. I'd love you to join.
Well, hey guys, thank you so much. Tony, thanks so much for being a guest today, a guest/host, and for sharing such your wisdom, and also your your vulnerability, your experiences, those experiences that we all try to put in the background and don't want to talk about. You were really forthcoming with your experiences and what you learned from them. So I appreciate that. I got a lot out of it. and I'm sure everybody else did too. So for our guests and for those who came through and commented, and Dana and Lucian and a few others of you, thank you all for being part of this.
Yeah, and listen, and thank you so much for bringing me on. I really appreciate you and what you're doing and what you're putting out in the world as well, because you are one of those change makers and one of those people that are changing the world. And we do it one show, one person at a time. Appreciate you, my friend.
Back at you, my friend. Take care, guys.
Take care.